Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and
And a
crackers.
beer.
And a beer.
And a beer in a tree.
On the third day of Christmas, Austin gave to me.
The Tampa Bay Devil Rays are still in first place. Call to the bullpen, ladies and gentlemen.
That's it.
Welcome again. We took a week off. Sorry about that. Some crap hit the fan. Just life. I know you missed our voices, but we're back. Back in the New York groove. Sorry, that's
We
another
used that
song.
already.
I know. It just worked. Anyways.
Third co-host, introduce yourself.
Exactly. Your host, as always, Austin Keeney, myself, Jared, as you hear him yelling in the background for Kyle. Please introduce yourself to introduce himself.
You mean reintroduce myself?
Well, yeah, just for this episode, you dummy.
It's a reintroduction to greatness.
Greatness, my ass. You smell like beef and cheese and you sit on a throne of lies.
No, I just showered.
Anyways, ladies and gents, it's been a couple crazy weeks in baseball. Nothing too nuts so, but the Red Sox are heating up a little bit. They're playing a little better than they were earlier in the season. The Yankees have had some significant injuries and some other players come back, and we'll touch base on some of that. And like I said, the Rays are still in first place in the American League East by a half a game in front of the Yankees and 4.5 in front of Boston or something like that. Is it 5? I don't know. It might be 5. Yeah.
Recently
Jared,
breaking.
Why don't you...
Well, recently breaking. I mean, before we get into the baseball stuff,
Sure.
just the other day, the Jets surprisingly fired their general manager Mike Maccagnan, which
Truth.
a lot of people saw coming. If you would ask them,
Is anything surprising with the Jets?
I mean, it was just strange that they made this decision now. Usually if you're going to fire a general manager based on past results, because the last few seasons, the Jets have been abysmal, and they've drafted very poorly, especially outside of the first rounds. Really, it's been a recurring theme every year that the deeper the draft goes, the poorer their decisions get. And it's just bizarre because, I mean, first of all, why would you let him have another offseason if he's failed you so many times before? And number two, you're kind of late to the game as far as finding a potential replacement.
Well, so my 2 cents on this is the fact that once he was fired, the reports came out that him and Adam Gase didn't agree on a few of the signings in the offseason, one specifically being Le'Veon Bell. And granted, he is the GM and he is a step higher than Adam Gase, obviously being the head coach of the team. I see them firing the GM instead if the two are not going to find a happy medium to agree on throughout the season, because you just hired Adam Gase. And how does it look, a couple months after hiring a new head coach to fire him because he doesn't agree with the GM? And I think the GM is more easily replaceable than Adam Gase would be, especially because you just got a bunch of good players, onto your team. There's good chemistry going on. You have a head coach come in who, it was I don't want to say controversial, but there's definitely some questions of, he failed in Miami. How the hell do you bring him into the Jets and expect him to do any better? But I see them bringing him in and keeping him over the GM because of that situation.
They just brought him in. They're not going
to firing the head coach, a couple months after without even giving him a game to coach.
Well, yeah, I mean, they just brought him in. They're not going to, they brought him in for a reason. They're not going to get rid of a head coach.
But that's my 2 cents on why they got rid of the GM in this situation, because clearly they weren't going to come to an agreement. And then on top of that, the reports came out that Adam Gase didn't want Le'Veon Bell at all in any way, shape, or form on this team. And now that kind of looks a little crappy as, a very highly paid, and respected player. I don't want to say respected off the field for his antics and his BS last season. But, I mean, he is a good player stat line wise. And, for your head coach to say, I never wanted you on this team is kind of a crappy situation to go into. And, Bell took to Twitter pretty much just saying he showed up to play football and he's not worried about any of the other BS. But how is that going to come to fruition when your head coach who's calling the plays every game is saying they don't want you on the team?
Well, I think that...
So that'll be interesting.
He seems to think that they overpaid for him, or that he didn't want to spend a lot of money on any running back. That's the word. Which my stance on the Le'Veon Bell thing with the Jets, and I was talking about this with some coworkers earlier. The Jets got a steal as far as signing Le'Veon Bell. So from that standpoint, they didn't spend too much money. However, you could make the case that they spent too much money on a running back. You know what I mean? Because given the market price for running backs, this was certainly higher end. But at the same time, they got him for less than he was holding out for, that he was hoping to get from the Steelers. So if you look at it from that perspective, the deal wasn't too crazy. But it is risky. You know, they always say, we're in such a pass happy league now that people seem very torn on the idea of building a franchise around a running back. And that's not even what the Jets are doing really, because they have their franchise quarterback, but they've got B receivers and they have an A running back at this point. So naturally you can kind of surmise what direction the offense might lean toward. But this is something that a lot of teams have taken criticism for lately. For some reason, any team that has a stud running back nowadays seems to take a lot of flack. Like everybody's been harping on the Giants, like how dare they take Saquon Barkley and not Darnold in last year's draft. And now you got the Jets facing a lot of criticism, even though they haven't had a strong running back in years. And they haven't even, it's been a few years since this team even made the playoffs. So I don't really fault them for going out there and getting their guy at the price that they got him at. And also Gase thought that they overpaid for C.J. Mosley.
Well, I guess the moral of the story in New York is that there's too many overpaid players and too many overdrafted players.
Yeah, that sums it up. I just think it's funny with the Jets because people thought after this offseason, after you have the free agency that they did, and then you go out and draft one of the top 3 can't-miss players, who were said to be, one of the top 3 can't-miss players in this year's draft, getting Quentin Williams in there. You think that this team finally has some talent, and like they might make some noise, they could go on a run, and then a move like this, coming at the time that it came, just shows so much behind-the-scenes drama that has plagued this franchise for many years. So it just leaves you thinking, is this another wannabe super team that's going to wind up being less than the sum of its parts?
I guess we will find out on a later episode of Call to the Bullpen. Let's talk some baseball, because it's baseball season. What do you think? Start it off. Baseball?
Yeah, it's a good idea. So, yeah, you kind of got it off a few minutes ago talking about the AL East situation. Obviously, there's a big chink in the Rays' armor right now because Tyler Glasnow got hurt, and it's not a season-ending injury, but he's going to miss over a month, it sounds like, which is not good considering he had been the best pitcher in baseball, arguably, up to this point. So, he went down in about the 5th or 6th inning, I think it was the 6th inning, against the Yankees on last Friday night, Friday, May 10th. Yeah, that would be the 10th. So Yankees and Rays finally collide. Yankees took 2 or 3 in that series. And, the fact that they came away winning the 2 games that they won against Glasnow and Snell is really impressive and says a lot about what this team, what this lineup, missing the pieces that they're missing, can still do against very, very top-quality pitchers.
Yeah, and was it? I think it was Snell that pitched that 7-1 game. Yeah, it was, and it's kind of crazy because Snell actually pitched extremely well in that game. He only gave up 2 earned runs through 5 or 6 innings or something along those lines. But if you look at the stat line without knowing Blake Snell's stats in that game, you look at the final box score of the game. The Yankees won 7-1, and it's kind of crazy because you would think, oh, Blake Snell started. The Yankees won 7-1. He must have got killed. Like, no, he actually had 12 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, and only gave up 4 hits through 6 innings. It's a pretty impressive stat line. So really, the Yankees got him out early. And Jared, you made a good point of the fact that they worked the count. They got him out early in 5 2/3. Now that I actually look at it, so they got him out before the 6th, and they got to the bullpen, and that's really when they pounded on the runs. They put on 1 in the 8th and in 4 in the 9th to give them that 7-1 lead, just for a little insurance. But it was really good that they got him out of the game and hit the bullpen, because the bullpen was clearly the weak link of that game. And Snell pitched a hell of a game. So
Snell pitched great, but he didn't get out of the 6th inning, and that's because the Yankees were able to drive up the pitch count. And not to mention, it wasn't like the guy was wildly inaccurate. He threw, over 2/3 of his pitches were in the strike zone. But the
Yeah, he
Yankees
had 12 strikeouts.
yeah, Yankees just like, fouling off pitch after pitch. And this is, why strikeouts can be kind of deceptive and you have to look at innings because, it can kind of be bittersweet when you're getting strikeouts while driving your pitch count up. Like Severino went through the same sort of thing last year where the dude had a ton of strikeouts, but he did not top 200 innings despite starting over 30 games. And we're supposed to be the ace of the staff. That's not particularly impressive, and it's almost like I said, kind of bittersweet because it's not there's a difference between mowing guys down when you're a strikeout pitcher and making them miss and painting those corners like someone like Verlander does, and when you're having to grind out these 5 or 6 or 7 pitch strikeouts, it seems nice that all right, you end the game with 10 Ks or however many, but then when you look at the pitch counts, it's like you really drove it up there and you weren't able to go as deep into the game. So I don't know. It's just tough. These pitchers, they got to find a way to make hitters miss. I mean, give credit to the opposing lineups for being able to foul off pitches, but it's like if you're going to be the ace of the staff, I know it's frustrating, but you just have to make these guys miss.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle, what do you got on that?
Yeah, well, the thing about Snell is that was a class ace of being a little too amped up, I think, for a start. His pitch count was up, but you can tell like about the 4th inning he was gassed. He was tired.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think that attests to the Yankees running up the pitch count, like we said. Just looking at Snell's game log here, first game against Houston back in March, he had 6 innings pitched, 7 innings pitched, 6 innings pitched, 6 innings pitched, 3.1, so 3 1/3. Sorry, baseball lingo. 3 1/3 pitched against Kansas City on a loss, 3 pitched against Kansas City on a loss, 6 on a win, and then 5 2/3, excuse me, on a loss against the Yankees. So, I mean, he hasn't, other than one game out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So one start out of eight starts, he's gotten past the 6th inning and gotten into the 7th. So every other game, he's been shorter than the 6th inning.
And this is why I did not think he deserved to win the Cy Young last year. Because, I mean, yeah, ERA is nice, strikeouts are nice, wins are nice, but to me, it's all got to balance out with innings. And I don't know, I always, not to go back to an award given out for last season, but I kind of thought that, it should have gone to Verlander.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue that all day long. But even this year, I mean,
Houston is red hot right now. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, they definitely are. You could touch on that. Go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean they're getting it together. I mean, I think right now they're like the scariest team in baseball.
I mean they're projected to win 108 games this year, and I don't think any other team is projected to win over 100. So
yeah, I mean they were looking like kind of mortal at first, and Garrett Cole got off to a slow start, which contributed to them not totally dominating everyone out of the gate. But I mean the way this lineup is so freaking balanced. I mean, it's like this is like what people thought the Yankees lineup was going to be like with everybody healthy. But
yeah.
I mean, George Springer is looking like he's on track to have by far a career year, and of course he's supported by Carlos Correa, Bregman, Gurriel, Altuve. They're so, and Michael Brantley, who is, I mean, for the longest time, this guy's been one of the more underrated hitters in the game, who's just so consistent when he's healthy, year in, year out. And, that dude's batting .330 this year and putting up some healthy power numbers. So they've just got so much depth.
Yeah, I mean, even Josh Reddick is hitting .330 too,
Yeah, another underrated piece. They've just, Houston is...
They got 5 guys batting over 300 right now.
Don't forget.
Actually, Jake Marisnick isn't a full-time starter. I don't think he's only got 67 at-bats. In comparison, everybody else is like 150, but still.
Yeah.
You got 5 guys, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 guys that with at least 130 at-bats that are batting over 300.
And that doesn't include Altuve, who is going to get better.
Correct, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he hasn't played.
Yeah. I mean, he's still at 144 at-bats, which is still a pretty decent amount in comparison.
He's only missed a few games.
Yeah, I mean, he's got the 6th most at-bats out of that team right now. So, I mean, he's definitely played. He's,
Yeah, he's missed like 4 games so far.
Springer's only got 30 more at-bats than Altuve does. So, I mean, that's 10 games maybe if that's, or depending on the lineup, 6 games.
Altuve has 38 or 39. So, It's just been a few games he's been out.
Yeah.
Well, he got hurt. He's back now. I know he got hurt. What, Friday? He got hurt. With his hamstring. Has he played since?
He had a day off on Sunday, but since then he's been back.
Oh, he has. Oh, okay.
I believe so.
Games played. Jose Altuve has played 39 games, and George Springer has 44 games played, and that's the most out of the batting roster. And I mean, they're 29 and 15, which is 44. So yeah, I mean, he's only missed 5 games this season.
Yeah,
interesting. I thought he was been out for a while now.
Nope.
Interesting.
And their closer, Ozuna, I mean, he's been lights out. I honestly thought that was going to be a dumpster fire when they signed him, when they traded for him, when he had the, I believe, the domestic abuse thing with the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was going to be a huge, huge mistake, and like he was just going to wind up being a little couple-month experiment, and he was going to shit the bed for them, and then they were going to get rid of him. But now, I mean, the dude's been lights out.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a .49 ERA with 10 saves and 2 wins and 18 innings pitched. So,
yep,
it's got some pretty damn good numbers. Yeah, I mean, the Astros are looking legitimate as always. I mean, obviously they're a scary team and a team to look out for. Minnesota's looking pretty good this year too. I mean, they're 27 and 15. Granted, that Central Division is it's okay. I mean, Cleveland's good.
No, it's awful. Everybody outside,
it's
everybody beneath the Indians. Those are 3 horrible teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tigers, White Sox, and Royals. Like, most of the American League is absolutely horrendous. Like, the National League has some borderline teams. The American League has... They literally have 6 teams.
4 good teams, or 6, yeah.
They have 6. They have 6 like good teams, and the Indians, I would say, are like a borderline team at this point. So you could even say 5. The Red Sox got off to an awful start, and they're starting to get better. But it really seems like it's just 6 teams, and one of them is going to be the odd man out. But other than that, you pretty much know who's going to be in the postseason already. But the National League is way more fluid.
Yeah, no, the National League is definitely more fluid. I mean, I think like you said, the American League is super weak. Say that 5 times fast. The American League is super weak, and you're right. The National League is a lot more fluid. I mean, you're talking about, Philadelphia 24 wins, Atlanta 22 wins, even the Mets with 20. I mean, they're still within a 3-game stretch of Philadelphia.
I'm not too worried.
I'm just talking record. I'm not talking 60 more games into the season. I'm just saying right now, if you look at the numbers in comparison to the American League, then you have the Central. Cubs have 25 wins. Milwaukee's got 27 wins. St. Louis has 23. Even Pittsburgh's only 4 games back out of the lead there with 21. And then again, the Dodgers, I mean, they have a little bit of a grip on that division with Arizona with 24 and San Diego with 22, Colorado with 20 and LA with 29. But you're 100% right. I think it's a lot more competitive. The National League is a lot more competitive of a league, which, I mean, does that then play into this Bryce Harper, Manny Machado offseason, talk of, why did they both go to the National League? Well, maybe they see something in that National League that it is a little bit more competitive of a league, and those teams are willing to pay for those big bodies to get them over that hump of being, with that fluid pack and then being on top. When in the American League, I mean, the Boston Red Sox are heating up, and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, who have one okay baseball player in their lineup, are on the top of the American League East. Granted, you could attest that to, Boston getting off to a slow start and their pitching not being great, and the Yankees, having injuries and shit like that. But, it's so weird to see these National League teams being so much more competitive and playing at such a higher level.
I just think the talent's more spread out.
Yeah.
No,
you're 100% right. It's not, it's like the American League almost, I don't want to call them super teams, but it's like they've made a couple super teams, and then the National League, granted, I feel like the National League has the bigger names on their teams, but you're right, the talent is a lot more spread out than the American.
Yeah, because each team only has one of those guys. I mean, like Philly, they have like a deep lineup, but I mean, those are dudes that they pretty much all developed except for Harper. They didn't go out and I mean, the Astros, they developed some people, but then they went out and made some additions. So, that kind of looks like a super lineup. The Yankees have have a super team. The Red Sox have a super lineup. Kind of all these, fantasy baseball-esque batting orders. And the National League, I just think that, yeah, I mean, it's a little bit more balanced, more level playing field. But there's also been a lot more ebbs and flows. Like I don't know if you're paying attention at all, but the Cardinals, the Cardinals have had like the craziest month of baseball. This team they won 10 of 11 games, and then they lost 10 of their next 12. So they skyrocketed up the standings and came out of nowhere to first place, and then they fell right back down the tubes, and now they're in third place, but they were in fourth place just a few days ago.
Yeah, but I mean, does that attest to the fact that the division's, more competitive? I mean, the Cubs are a pretty good team. Milwaukee obviously has what the hell is that kid's name over there who's
Yelich.
killing it? Yelich, thank you. I had Ryan Braun's face like right in my
Ryan
eyeballs.
Braun is not a kid. Ryan Braun was a kid 10 years ago.
I know. That's why I didn't want to say Ryan Braun. But like I was picturing him when I meant to say Yelich.
Well,
But you have
he's still got something left.
Oh,
but...
I know, but I mean, you're right. But I mean, St. Louis is on their last 10 games. They're 3-7, and the Cubs in Milwaukee are 7-3. In their last 10, and there's your 4-game swing right there. But when the two teams in front of you win, 3 in a row as Milwaukee has, or even 7 out of their last 10, and you only win 3 out of your last 10, that's what happens. You're going to swing in either direction.
Yeah, I mean the Cubs are probably the most balanced team in that division. I mean we said that last year, and that was the case. But the Brewers just got so hot with the bats that they were able to kind of steal the division away at the last minute. But I mean this year, you still got like Kane and Braun contributing, but Yelich has pretty much put the team on his back, and the Cubs kind of got off to a slow start, but they got so much talent on that team. With young guys like Javi Baez, who is, he's like on track. Like he is, if he's not there already, which, he should probably be considered top 10 at this point, like overall hitters in the game. And he's going to continue to establish himself over the next few years as one of the premier hitters to watch. I got to say, Chris Bryant, he's been playing better of late, but got to a really slow start. I really thought after his first couple years in the league, I thought he was going to be a guy putting up astronomical numbers. And I don't know if it's just been like a bit of inconsistency like throughout the seasons, but he's been good, but not. He just I envisioned him kind of rising up to being like that next Machado or Goldschmidt or at that level, and not quite.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. I definitely don't think he's lived up to the hype. And just before we conclude the differences between the American League and the National League, just as a kind of a stupid but fun little stat, so far this year for interleague play, the National League is 17-14 against the American League, and obviously vice versa for the American League. So the National League has a little bit of edge over the American League in interleague play standings. I thought that was an interesting little stat of just kind of comparing the competitiveness of the National League to the American League. And granted, there can be arguments in either direction there, of who, what team played who. And obviously if the Dodgers played, the fucking Orioles, and the Orioles are absolutely horrible, they're probably going to sweep them, and there's a couple wins in their direction. But whatever. Either way, no, you're totally right. Chris Bryant, I definitely think he could be pulling his weight a little bit more. But there are guys on that team that obviously are. I think Anthony Rizzo is a very, very underrated. I know that people like him over there, but I don't think he gets enough credit for his ability on the field. And I'm not just talking stats, but I'm talking smart plays in his baseball IQ. And I've seen a couple plays where guys on first doesn't get off the base, batter pops up to the first baseman, Anthony Rizzo, doesn't leave the batter's box. Rizzo stands there instead of catching it, lets the ball drop, tags first base, throws the ball to second, tag the runner going to second. And stupid little plays like that to get out of innings, even if it's only one guy on. Now you just got a double play, and now nobody's on with 2 outs, or the inning's over. And those are the kind of plays that I've seen Rizzo pull off to really help that team be where they are. And obviously Javi Baez is Javi Baez. He's one of the most fun players to watch in baseball. And I'm actually pretty pissed because my wife's going to a Chicago Cubs game. I don't know, within a month or so.
That's right. That trip to
And I,
Chicago. Yeah.
yeah, and I bought her a Javi Baez jersey, just to make her fit in a little bit more, because she doesn't really know baseball that well, but I don't need her walking in there with a, Nationals jersey on and have them, freaking out. So, I bought her a Javi Baez jersey, but yeah, out of principle that I'm also going to wear the hell out of that because I love Javi Baez as a baseball player. And if you're a fan of baseball, Javi Baez is a hell of a player to watch. So,
Yeah. Yeah. No question about that. So I think a lot of people, the Cubs were probably the division favorite heading into the year. But I mean, it's when the Brewers have Yelich, who him and Cody Bellinger have been the two best players in baseball this season. Obviously, it's helped them stay pretty neck and neck with them so far. So this is definitely the most exciting divisional race in baseball, I think. Because the Phillies have kind of shown that they've been showing a little bit of weakness lately, but over the last couple of weeks, they've mostly been able to pull ahead out of the pack and in that NL East division. I can't believe how bad the Nationals have been. Until they took 2 or 3 from the Mets, they were the worst team in the National League outside of the Marlins.
well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, don't even talk about the Marlins. And honestly, the Nationals are still the worst team in the National League other than the Marlins. I believe, if I'm looking at it
18-25,
correctly,
yeah, by a half game, but it was by
18 and
a couple
25, yeah, and yeah, correct. But I mean, still, mathematically, I mean, other than the Marlins, who obviously are irrelevant and they always will be, yeah. But I mean, look at their run differential, though. I mean, they're negative 24 in their run differential in a team like Atlanta, who's negative 6. So granted, they're not. They're not at the top of that division because Philly is obviously outscoring their opponents, but a team that gives up less runs is obviously going to do better. And the Nationals just aren't holding up right now. Just not at all holding up.
They're not scoring
No.
enough, and when you've got a thin lineup, you kind of need. They still have a good rotation. As far as like a good front three.
Oh, absolutely,
not much,
they have a great front three.
No depth behind that, but Scherzer hasn't been lights out. He's only like 2-4. ERA is closer to 4 than 3. Which yeah, is he horrendous? Absolutely not. But it's just that when you're not supplying a ton of run support for your pitchers, you kind of need them to be like Jacob deGrom last year, and we saw, even with him, that wasn't quite enough the way he was pitching, and they haven't been getting that Max Scherzer yet. Corbin,
correct, yeah. Corbin's 4-1 right now, so he's doing really well.
He was great against the Mets last night.
Yeah,
the Mets suck, but I shouldn't say that. Well, the Mets are the Mets are doing exactly.
They're not good. They're the Mets.
They're doing what they did last year. They got off to that great start. Now it's over.
Yeah, I mean, and you're totally right, but back to the Nationals just for a little bit. I mean, they have the bodies to produce. It just doesn't seem like those guys are. I mean, they only got 2 guys hitting over 300 right now. If you don't include Trey Turner, who's a pinch hitter at best, he only has 14 at bats. Is he hurt?
No, he's been a regular for that team for years, actually.
Yeah, no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Is he hurt right now? Why does he only have 14 at bats? I don't even know anything on him right now.
He's only
That's interesting.
He's only had 4 games. Did he just come off, or?
That's what I'm saying. I'll try to look that up as we're going forward.
Oh, fractured index finger. That explains a lot.
Well, there you go. Yeah, that makes more sense. All right. Well, then we won't count him. But now you only have Anthony Rendon and Howie Kendrick. Howie Kendrick, 974 years old, and he's one of your best hitters. So, I mean, there are guys that are definitely producing on that team, but you're right, not as much as they need to be, and that just shows right there.
He was a rookie last year, and he's supposed to kind of asking a lot for him to take that leap forward and just anchor the team, but
absolutely.
Obviously,
I mean, you're talking about losing Bryce Harper as the anchor on your team. I mean, there, like I said, there's guys that are stepping up and playing, but there's no Bryce Harper on this team. Yan Gomes isn't the hitter that he used to be, and I think he used to be a great power hitter, a couple years back, but he just isn't doing it anymore. And this team just doesn't look the same as they did. I mean, their pitching staff is great, but especially with Scherzer not being the Scherzer that he should be. I mean, you're totally right. I mean, Patrick Corbin's got a 2.91 ERA in 58 innings pitched. But then you drop down to Max Scherzer, 59 innings pitched. He's got a 3.64, and so does Strasburg. Strasburg's 57 innings pitched and 3.63. So I mean, you're talking about giving up 4 runs a game and a team that clearly isn't scoring 4 runs a game to keep up with what their pitching is giving up. So definitely a team that needs to step it up if they want to have any contention. But yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that sums that up. That's your state of the National League right now. Pretty fluid.
Yeah.
The Dodgers. It's actually. It's hard to believe that the West actually has 3 teams with a winning record, but the Padres have kind of just been middle of the road all season long. The Diamondbacks are surprisingly. I'm actually shocked that they have a winning record because they lost so many pieces in the offseason, and that was after an end of the year slump. This is a team that's really lacking roster depth, but I think that they're going to falter again, and I think the Dodgers are just going to continue to pull ahead because, oh my gosh, if Cody Bellinger continues hitting the way he's hitting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. Did you see, kind of to tie in the Nationals, did you see the other day, who the hell was pitching? I don't know. Somebody was pitching for them the other day for LA, and Bellinger threw out Strasburg at first base by a third, a quarter of an inch on a single to keep the no-hitter going in the 7th inning or something like that. It was actually pretty funny. I mean, the fact that Strasburg was the only one to actually get the ball in play, and even the announcers were like, oh well, there goes the no-hitter, and Bellinger just comes up and throws an absolute piss missile to first base. You're like, holy crap, he threw it out.
That was to help out Ryu.
Ryu, that's who it was. I knew it was. Yeah, I knew it was. His name was a little wacky there, and I just completely forgot what the hell it was.
He's been filthy this season, actually.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Dude's got 172. That's insane.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. So I mean, if they keep getting the pitching that they're getting, they'll definitely be in better contention. Even Kershaw's doing well. He's 3-0. He doesn't have. He missed his first 2 starts technically. He missed the obviously opening day, and then I think he might have been back in time for what was his second scheduled start. But I think he at least missed another one because he's only got 40 innings pitched right now.
I think that Kershaw. I think that the glory days are over at this point, and I'm not going to say he's going to fall off a cliff. But I'm looking, man, you look at the innings pitched in the last few seasons, it's clear that this is a guy who, he was a horse, he put up a ton of innings when he was young, and now he's 31, but he might as well be 36.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of year, he wasn't the greatest. He had a 9-5 record. That's a third starting pitcher.
I'm not just looking at the record.
I'm
looking at the fact that he hasn't made 30 starts in a season since 2015, and also only made 27 in 2014. So
it's true.
This guy, he missed. He was hurt at the start of this season too. I think that obviously he can still pitch. He can still pitch effectively, but as far as what we saw from 2010 to 2013, I'll give you 14 too because he made most of the season, and 15. 2010 to 15 were the glory years for him, and now I just think that his body is starting to deteriorate a little bit. I don't think it can keep up with the workload, and because it now seems like it's an annual thing. He gets hurt, he misses time.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you're right. He's probably not the pitcher that he used to be, and but hell, he's 3-0 right now, and granted, it's in I would guess 5 or 6 starts with probably a couple no decisions in there, if I hazard to guess without actually looking. But you know what, they're playing well. They're on a 3-game win streak. They won 7 of the last 10, and they're fucking 5 games ahead of Arizona, 4.5 games, whatever that math is.
And it's going to get the gap's going to widen too, because
it's absolutely going to widen. I think the only chance this division has is if somehow San Diego steps up and absolutely turns it around. I think they're playing well. They're a 500 team right now. But really they got to.
But
it's better than they have been. But they got to get this ball rolling, and they lost their last 3 in a row, so that doesn't help. Going from 22-18 and only being a few games back to being 22-21 and being 6 games out of the lead of that division is not. You can't. That's not how you keep pace with the Dodgers right now.
Yeah, and I just think Machado is not doing. I think he's performing in line with expectations, which is expectations for me based on what he's produced throughout his career, which is not good enough if you're talking about a $300 million player. And I really thought the hype was just blown out of proportion for this guy because it's not that hard to find somebody in Major League Baseball who can hit 35 home runs and drive in 90 RBI, and that's what he's on pace for right now. Is right in that range. Which I mean, I think that people were treating him like he was a 50 homer guy who would bat like 320 and drive in 130 or 140 runs, like he was this animal. And I just don't understand where this hype came from, and I just think that his numbers are not that hard to replicate. I think I was arguing this to Kyle in our group chat the other day that I thought that, I mean, I wish we had him on air. He had to run, but because I would love to reenact that debate live right now. The fact that I think the Yankees are still, even with losing Miguel Andujar, are better off without Machado than they would be with him. I don't think Machado makes his team better.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Machado makes his team better at all, and I was never on the Machado wagon, and he knows that. And yeah, unfortunately, just to let everybody know, Kyle did have to bounce from this episode, but we will be back to our regularly scheduled Monday episodes, and he will be back with us on Monday. Sorry about that, and again, sorry about missing last week's. However, you're right. I don't think Machado makes his team any better. I mean, yes, he's a good player, and Kyle's biggest argument right now is, oh, this guy's hurt and that guy's hurt and this guy's hurt. We could use Machado. We could use anybody that's not injured. I mean, Machado's not. He's not that good. I think he's very overhyped. I think he's still a fucking punk. I just don't like him at all. And I'm pulling up the stats here just so I can have a little bit of an argument.
Well, beyond the numbers,
I mean, you have to look at the numbers. You can't even, I understand what you mean, but you got to look at the numbers. He's 9 home runs, 23 RBIs in batting 266 so far this year. I mean, he's not that great, and his on base percentage isn't good either. He's got 38 strikeouts in 42 games. I mean, he's almost averaging a strikeout a game. I mean, it's not horrible, but that's not good. It's not good at all.
And I just think, well, it's just the fact that the Yankees don't need a centerpiece power hitter. Like,
no, not at all.
Yeah,
especially healthy.
It's all about finding the right blend of ingredients to create a balanced lineup from 1 to 9. The Yankees tried this last year when you had everybody just hacking from the fences from 1 through 9, and eventually it just didn't work because guess what? Like, you created a lineup full of a bunch of streaky power hitters where not one guy hit 300. The only guy who came close was Andujar, and he was like I almost cringed when he got hot and started hitting homers because I was like, no, I want you to keep slapping those doubles, get on base. Get guys over. Get yourself over. And I think what they have now with LeMahieu and Urshela, the way they freshen up this lineup and they get guys playing a different brand of baseball, and
absolutely.
They set the.
I said it all year long,
yeah.
and I'm sure you heard me a million times. They got to play small ball. They have to play small ball, and they didn't last year. It was just this guy strikes out. Okay, next guy tries for a home run. That guy flies out. This guy tries for a home run. All right, Gary Sanchez hit a home run. Well, it's still 7-1. There's nobody on base. You got to get guys on base to score guys. And now you're right. There's guys that are walking. There's guys that are getting hit by pitches. I mean, how many times have we seen DJ LeMahieu and Urshela bunt guys over this year? And even Gardner, I've seen him bunt a couple guys over. And it's nice to see because I said that all year last year. And they never did it. And I remember specifically, I was down at my in-laws' place, I don't know, a month ago or something. They were playing. And you know what? It was on Easter. That's when it was. It was Easter Sunday. I was down at my in-laws' place. My parents were down there, and my dad's a huge Yankee fan, as Jared. And we're sitting there, and I forgot who the hell came up, but either way, it was first and second, nobody out. They were like down a run, and they whoever the hell they were playing brought in a relief pitcher. And I'm sitting there, and I'm yelling and screaming, they gotta bump this guy over. If they don't bump this guy over, I'm gonna be pissed. They come up, they bump the guy over. Next guy hits a single. So now it's second and third with one out. Next guy hits a single and 2 runs scored instead of, hitting a single with first and second and 1 run scored and then potentially getting out of the inning. Or, if he had grounded into potentially what was a double play ball, maybe a run still could have scored in that situation. So it's nice to see, and I don't know if this is Aaron Boone making these calls or who the hell's making these calls, but the team looks different injured than it does healthy.
Yeah. No, I mean, you got a great point. Could have said better myself. Yeah, I mean, I like the diverse hitting styles and just playing style that we're seeing up and down. Because, I mean, people are going to point to a guy like Machado with Andahar going down with this injury, but it's like, this infield is full. And then when Didi comes back, you can't even fit in LeMahieu and Urshela, both of them, every day. I mean, maybe you can until the outfield gets fully healthy, but then when that happens, you're already squeezing out one of those guys, and both of them are hitting over 320. So why would I want to remove either one of them? I don't care if they only have a couple of home runs. They're consistently getting on base pretty much every game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we had this argument, like a week ago or something. And my argument, especially when the outfield gets healthy and, all right, so let's just say we're at 100%, who gets cut, who gets sent to the minors, who gets stuck on the bench, even though they're a good hitter or a good player, whatever it may be, I mean, if you have a full outfield and, or actually, no, you know what? Now this argument is kind of irrelevant because fucking Andujar just went out with surgery, right?
Well, he did get the season-ending surgery, but that still doesn't hold. That still doesn't.
Well, I mean,
that doesn't. It
helps though because my argument was putting him, keeping him in the DH spot, starting Urshela at third, and then having to put Stanton in the outfield. But now him not, what?
I don't think that Stanton is meant to be an everyday outfielder. I don't think they want him to be an everyday outfielder.
I'm well aware, but would you rather have Stanton in the outfield and Andujar DHing if Andujar was healthy, or Andujar playing third base, who's not a good third baseman, and then Urshela not playing at all, or putting Urshela somewhere else on the infield? Because, you think about it, with DJ LeMahieu healthy, Didi Gregorius healthy, Aaron Hicks healthy, Brett Gardner healthy, and Stanton healthy, and then Andujar healthy, so what would you do there? You got to have Andujar playing third base, who sucks at third base, so that Stanton can DH, so that you can start Clint Frazier in the outfield with Hicks and Judge? Or do you put Stanton in the outfield, you bench Clint Frazier or send him down, which you don't really want to do because he's playing pretty well. And he's a better outfielder than Stan obviously is. But then you got to deal with Andujar at third base. I know he's had his issues, but he's still he's still got more speed. He's a better outfielder than Stan.
Frazier's actually getting yanked for defense like late in games. I actually, it's funny, whenever I can't watch a Yankees game live and I'm getting the live updates on my phone and I see in the 6th or 7th inning Clint Frazier is getting replaced in the field, I get worried and I start going to Twitter and start searching his name to make sure that he's not injured. But every time it's been, no, he's getting pulled for defense. And the thing is, with him and Stanton, is that I think that with Stanton, it's like an injury concern that they don't want him, especially coming off, the bicep injury and the shoulder injury. I don't know if they want him playing in the outfield for his health's sake, even though he can play left field, sure. I don't think they want him out there. I think they want to keep him at DH. Whereas Frazier is more of a performance concern rather than an injury concern. So I don't know what trumps what. I don't know if maybe they continue rolling with Frazier in left field and keep making these defensive substitutions because his bat is invaluable. But ever since he returned, he really hasn't been hitting the ball that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're not wrong, but, so I don't know. I mean, at least I think they're in a little bit better of a position now that, unfortunately, yeah, Andujar's hurt and you don't want to see him hurt, but I think it helps out with this argument because now, you could just DH Stan, but, so who plays the outfield now? If Frazier's not your everyday outfielder, you got Judge and Hicks out there. Do you start Gardner out there?
Well, Gardner is going to be the safe bet as far as defense goes, although but the flip side of that is that this season he's been the worst hitter on the team.
Okay, so do you DH Clint Frazier and put Stan in the outfield?
How do you DH Frazier when you have like 5 infielders and Giancarlo Stanton?
Yeah. That's, I
You
mean,
see
listen,
what,
this
see what's
is,
going on here?
I want to say this. I want to say this, that this is a good problem to have, I
It is a
guess,
good
because
problem.
we're talking about what starter is the better option. I mean, at least when everybody's healthy, the lineup is deep. And I think we've only gotten that lucky because of, with all these injuries, we found guys that we would have never seen play as well as they are. I mean,
Some.
with everybody healthy, I don't think LeMahieu, or not LeMahieu, I don't think Urshela, shows up the way that he's showing up right now, because I don't even think he plays. I think he's still down in AAA. If everybody was healthy and no one got hurt this season, you see Urshela, being an argument for a starting infielder's position.
Not for a starting position. I'm trying to think because I wonder he might still be a depth option because you got to remember that LeMahieu was the reason. I'm pretty sure the reason they picked him up was because of Didi's injury. Because Didi's injury was dating back to last year's playoffs. They knew going into the season that he was not going to play until at least June, and he actually seems to be kind of a little ahead of schedule. They said I think he might return actually in early June, which is great. But that's the reason they got DJ. So DJ, they figured, all right, we can flex him all over the infield because at the time they did not know if Voit was going to replicate what he was able to produce last year, and just with the whole fluidity of the whole situation with Didi, they wanted a guy who they could plug in at any infield position.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a good problem to have. It's definitely, having these healthy guys back once they're back is a good problem to have. I mean, we still got a long way off for this, and it's all hypothetical right now because I mean, Stanton could be back sometime in the relatively near future, and we have no idea. I mean, he's got a jacked up shoulder, and I don't think he has a timetable for return. And Judge, he hasn't taken his jacket off yet, so
Judge is not even doing baseball activities yet, and Stanton is doing baseball activities, but. I mean, with him, it has taken so long at this point that I'm just, you just can't get your hopes up until you hear that he's going to go play a minor league game. Then you can start talking about like, oh, he's close. Because until then, I mean, I'm kind of suspicious of the fact that a bicep strain and a shoulder strain have kept him out for what looks like 2 months.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and it's definitely not a good situation to be in. And I think that they've been lying about people's time frames for a while now. And when Judge got hurt, it was, oh yeah, he's 10-day DL, he'll be back in a couple days. It's like, yeah, I don't know about that one.
Judge they were actually honest about because last season, do you remember when he fucking broke his wrist and they said, oh, he'll be back in 3 weeks? Like, you moron.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a chip fracture. It's still a fracture. You'd think that after breaking his wrist, he's going to be back in the field in 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it sucks, but hopefully we'll see them back. I want to say before the All-Star break at this point. But if not, we ride with who we ride with, and honestly, some of these guys are stepping up to be good players right now, and they're keeping us in contention, which is good. We're still a couple games ahead of Boston, who's heating up, so it's going to turn interesting. But at least we're still ahead in the pack here, and we're not down with Baltimore at 14-28, and we can have a conversation about the Yankees still being a decent team right now. So
hey, it's a good, like you said, good problem to have because I mean at the end of the day, no matter we can debate who's going to play, but the bottom line is whatever combinations they're trotting out there, even though sometimes we look at these lineups and we're just like, what the fuck is this? Like, huh? At the end of the day, they're winning baseball games. They've won 20. Hold on. 20 of their last 27 games.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were 6-9, I think,
Correct.
2 episodes ago when we recorded. So, and you're talking, what was that, 3 weeks? Because we skipped a week. So, 3 weeks ago they were 6-9, and right now they're 26 and 16, which is 20-7.
They're half game out of first place, and this weekend they get Tampa Bay.
Yeah, and I mean, not that it means anything, but they traded for Kendry Morales for warm rosin bag a warm rosin bag and a piece of bubble yum. But it's another body. I mean, I think it's a waste of a fucking roster spot. But so what? They pay the guy, they dump him off and release him, and somebody picks him up at the All-Star break, or he rides the bench as a pinch hitter once in a blue moon. But it's a warm body, and I mean, hell, the guy got a hit in his first 2 at bats yesterday or something like that because they're not playing tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, some of these guys are stepping up, man. I mean, Urshela's hitting 330, LeMahieu's hitting 322. I mean, even fucking Cameron Maben, 40 at bats and he's hitting 300 right now. I mean, he's got a home run. He's got 12 hits, 7 runs scored, and 4 RBIs and 40 at bats. I mean, a body that, all right, yeah, he's got a pulse, great, but even he's hitting fucking 300 over his first 10 games.
He's just smart enough to know that these pitchers are not afraid of him at all, and they think that he's the guy to pitch to in this lineup, and he's taking advantage of that. The fact that he's seating pitches to hit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, like I said, some guys are stepping up, and it's looking good. And even Glaber's been hitting the shit out of the ball. He hit 2 home runs yesterday.
Remember how good he was last year before the I mean, he didn't fall off a cliff last year, but pre-injury Glaber was absolutely on fire.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So, and then, just to touch base on some other teams, I know last episode we talked about Vlad Jr. and his debut, and that was 2 weeks ago now. He hasn't been playing fantastic, but you know what? He's young, and we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and the fact that he's on the Blue Jays, who also just blow in general. He hit his first home run the other night. Was it last night, 2 nights ago? And not only did he hit his first home run, he hit 2 home runs. So his first home run, it was also a multi-home run game in his first multi-home run game. So, good for him to step up and hit his first home run and really make a statement and start to maybe break out and get some confidence.
Yeah, maybe he can be up for Rookie of the Year or something, and, be the one bright spot of the Blue Jays, right?
Yeah, absolutely, because the Blue Jays are absolutely horrible. So, but yeah. I don't know, Jared, you got anything else for this one? You want to jump into an old moment? You got something for that or not?
Nothing that comes to mind, actually. I guess before we take off, I know we occasionally chime in with wrestling stuff every now and then. I just want to say it was pretty cool. Heard about some breaking news this week. All Elite Wrestling, the new wrestling promotion that's going to be headed up by Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, and they got Chris Jericho involved as well, Kenny Omega, all those dudes. They, first they announced the promotion back in January, stemming off the success of their independently promoted All-In event last year in Chicago, and they announced a TV deal with TNT, weekly starting this October. The rumors are it's going to be a Tuesday night show, which will not be going head-to-head with either of the main WWE programming because SmackDown's moving back to Friday nights when they go to Fox. So, yeah, you got weekly wrestling 3 nights of the week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't want to end this on a somber note, but I do have to make a little more wrestling announcement here, and then I'll do my old moment just to try to make a little laugh at the end. But unfortunately, there was a passing in the wrestling world within I don't know what the time frame was, but I was just informed, and within people are posting within minutes. Yeah, within the last hour, Ashley Massaro, who was a diva throughout my stint of watching wrestling, unfortunately did pass away today, I believe. Obviously, I don't know. I'm not too informed on this kind of crap, but it does suck. She was cool to watch, and even following her on the internet still, she seemed to have a relatively happy life going on, and seemed to be doing well for herself. So
the reports are that she died of a drug overdose.
I could see that happening, but again, I wasn't going to speculate. And either way, it sucks. It is what it is, and people have their demons that they fight with. But she was a person that I watched growing up, and enjoyed as a wrestling fan. So it does suck whenever you lose anybody. It doesn't really matter how you lose them. So unfortunately, condolences to her friends and family, and rest in peace. But just to try to make a little laugh at the end here, I'll do my old moment for the week. I don't know if you want to do the whole intro or not, but I'm just gonna the fact that the Baltimore Orioles are even a baseball team, watching these last couple games and specifically the doubleheader against the Yankees, and obviously, I talk more about the Yankees than anything because I watch Yankee games more than any other team. They're my baseball team. So but just watching them play baseball and, making these errors in the field and running mistakes. And I mean, they look like a little league baseball team. In the first game of the doubleheader, there was a pop up down the right field line one guy on, whatever. And Trey Mancini, who, I know he's bounced around the field, played a little infield, played a little outfield, done this, done that. He's not a natural right fielder, but he's on the depth chart as a right fielder. So you know what? I don't really give a shit what position you play. I played third base and pitched my entire life. I go in the outfield. I can track a fly ball. If you're a Major League Baseball player, I don't give a shit if you're a catcher, other than Gary Sanchez, who's fat. You can track a fly ball. It's as simple as that. You can get a ground ball. You can track a fly ball. He's running into the corner and just, I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but just completely derps and misses a fly ball, bounces against the wall, and instead of like trying to reach up and stop it from bouncing over his head, he just leans up against the wall for a second, lets it bounce over his head and roll back into the field, thinks about what he's going to do for dinner afterwards, turns around and, oh shit, I should probably go get that. The next inning, there's a line drive to the left fielder. He tries to come in and make a shoestring catch, and it wasn't even shoestring, it was at his kneecap, and he just hit his glove, fell out the side. Like, it just, they look like a fucking minor league baseball team, man. They look like a little league baseball team. I've umpired and coached Babe Ruth teams that are better than the Baltimore Orioles right now, and it's just, oh god, it's just so sad. It's so sad. Make the plays. And I'm not even just talking the Baltimore Orioles, just players in general. You're a Major League Baseball player. Catch the fucking fly ball. It's as simple as that. You get paid a lot of money to catch fly balls. Catch the fly ball. Yeah, that's my old moment of the week.
Yeah, I saw that whole thing.
So, anyways,
that's that.
We'll end it on that. A little somber moment at the end, and hopefully you got a little laugh at the
Levity,
Baltimore Orioles. But yeah. Anyways, we'll be back, Mondays as usual. Sorry, life gets in the way sometimes, and this isn't our full-time job. We do it when we can to the best of our ability, and try to stay consistent. But sometimes shit happens. So we'll be back. Kyle will be back. Yeah, Kyle will be back. Cartman will be back too. I'm kidding. Cartman won't be here. Oh my god. Yeah. We're called to the bullpen. Catch us, as always, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I got my Twitter, Austin, called to the BP. I forgot what the hell it is. I'm going to look it up.
Hey, baby, let me Twitter your Yahoo till you Google all over my Facebook.
Till you Google all over my Facebook. You're an idiot. I have my Twitter. It is at CTTB Austin. Kyle's got his at Kyle CTTB. I need to get a little bit more involved in that Twitter thing. I've never been a Twitter guy, so I'm trying. My friends. But yeah,
follow me
like I said, as always,
at Jared Talks.
Catch us there.
Yeah, at Jared Talks Loud.
Yeah, absolutely. Boom. And listen to us wherever you are right now. And if not, then iTunes, Spotify, Libsyn, Stitcher, YouTube. Give us some feedback, how we're doing, what we're doing right and wrong. Message us, contact us, say something. I want to hear from you. Who are we?
Call to the bullpen.
And what are we doing?
We hang up.